That's a tough question. Simply because I'm somebody who absolutely adores the coast. And I love everything about being on the coast. I grew up on the Mediterranean, moved to the U.S. to grow up on the East Coast. So my first love of at least U.S. beaches and the coast has always been Cape Cod, the islands, and then driving even further north and going to Maine. But then, at the age of 25, I visited California for the first time, and that changed everything because California beaches and the California coastline is so just wild and just still even more dramatic, which I didn't even know could exist. But usually, west-facing cliffs are always a little bit more dramatic because of the wind and all that. But my favorite to this day is still the Monterey Bay and Big Sur and that whole area. I live there, and that's very close and very dear to my heart. And then down here, we live on this hotel. I live on a bluff, and it is so cool to get to the top of the bluff before you get to the California incline and start heading down the path and looking up all the way to Malibu. There's no shortage of amazing, beaches, oceans here. But I love it. I think all of that is stunning, and it's a very special thing. Became interested in the Surfrider Foundation because of their presence on social media and seeing it kind of pop up here during my time in Santa Monica. I live in Santa Monica, I work in Santa Monica. But also we had the perfect business to become part of it because we aim to be as sustainable and as ocean friendly as possible. With all of the food that we purchase, we source the majority of our fish from the West Coast. We don't really bring in a lot of things from the East Coast, and we do supply. We do support the local fisheries here. We don't always buy only the bling fish, as I like to call it. The king salmon and the ahi tuna and all that stuff. We do go after the less used fish. So we use a lot of squid, we use octopus, we use rock cod, which is one of the biggest bycatches here on the West Coast. Most of our shellfish comes from the West Coast as well, so it doesn't travel that far. We source a couple of things from Massachusetts and New Jersey and the North Atlantic. But for the most part, we try to support West Coast fisheries as much as possible, which in our opinion, matters to the fishermen and the people who use the West Coast. So it felt like this was kind of a natural progression to make sure that we're supporting ocean cleanup efforts, as well as making sure that we're using biodegradable containers and things like that that will help keep trash out of the ocean and more into the second life of whatever item that we use. Things that led me to join the sustainable food movement have always been there from the very beginning. I grew up in Lebanon, and we ate what was in season. We got fish from the fish guy. We got chicken from the chicken guy. We got, there was never a big supermarket that we went to. There was never a place that we went to for everything. You had to go and make an effort to make the connection with whoever grew the food you were going to be eating later on. So that stayed with me, and when I became a chef, I kind of got away from it a little bit, but then I went to culinary school at the CIA in Napa, and that became, it became a trend again, but also it was a way of life for, I think Northern California has always been the place where, sustainability has always been championed, and the slow food movement was really kind of started by a chef in the Bay Area. So it's a big deal for me to have come into this industry at a time when all of that was really being paid attention to. It just kind of became a part of what we do. One of the changes that the Surfrider Foundation asked us to implement were things that have to do with our packaging. We obviously have a lot of to-go items that we send out. We have a market. So we try to make sure that the packaging that we use is biodegradable and is sourced from good producers that are very conscious about sustainability and reusability. So as much as possible, we try to make that happen. We have a lot of guests who like to take food home, and we do a decent amount of packaging for our banquet events and things like that. So it's a big deal for us to find a great supplier and to make sure that we're using great products. One of the biggest ways that guests have made comments was through our food and wine festivals, where people really see us using the bamboo and the pressed palm products. And that's a big deal for us, because these festivals are a way for you to attract new guests, but also to kind of, show your current clientele that you can go out and do something fun and different than their restaurant experience. So for them to actually see it, we always get, the comments on all of our events are always that our displays are always beautiful, and they always find that the bamboo and the pressed palm plates are really cool vessels. And you can see even on our Instagram feed, our social media is full of people taking pictures of our food in those bamboo belts. The greatest challenge that we face in implementing any green, sustainable practices, I think is finding the right product that really speaks to your vision for what you're trying to execute, but also to what your guests are seeing as an end product. I think there's so many options out there, but it does have to work. And then right after that is cost. I think cost is a big deterrent to a lot of restaurateurs, a lot of hotels, because taking on these sustainable products, which are not widely produced still. There's a decent amount, but they're not widely produced. But also actually making the effort on the back end to recycle and repurpose properly. Not everybody has enough space to do so, not enough resources to make that happen. So I think, in the next few years, there will be a time when all of those things kind of come together and you end up with a more even spread of cost and a more even availability of products, but even like people investing time into making really great sustainable products, not just to be showy and not to just have things that are splashy and have a name to them, but things that are practical and can be taken on by the restaurant industry. And as it is with anything, I think that will eventually happen. It's just right now we're right in the middle of it, and we're trying to kind of get to a point where it makes sense, for us financially. I love the idea of us getting some great PR and some great publicity for the fact that we use these things, but at the end of the day, we are a business, and we do have to make good business decisions to continue to do these things. So the balance, I don't think it's quite there yet, but we're getting there. We do see more products coming online that are practical and they make more sense. Things that I can recommend to anybody aiming to get into this and to actually go out and start really touching and feeling all these products that we want to use and we want to kind of encourage people to use. Not everything is going to make sense. Storage space, viability in your operation, branding, whatever it is. There's lots of factors that really affect, but just actually getting out there and seeing something, you'll be surprised how many different products are out there. Actually, we have a really cool product that we use. We actually use a product that's made out of pressed potato starch, which is eventually biodegradable, and it's fantastic. It holds up to high heat. We use it for all of our tasting spoons in the kitchen, like the chefs are tasting items as they're making them. We go through a decent amount of tasting spoons. All of that stuff is biodegradable. It's all made out of potato starch that's pressed and turned into that. One of the cool things that we did as soon as I came here was we actually added air guns, air compressors to our dish pit operations to use that instead of water when we can. You can't use it all the time, but it does help a little bit, and maybe 1 or 2 times out of the 10 times you'll use it throughout the day with water is pretty good. So. The Surfrider really talked to us about managing our compostables, managing our plastic usage. I think plastic is a big hot button. It's a big deal to make sure that that's being paid attention to. We don't really sell a lot of plastic packaged beverages. Most of our beverages are either in glass or metal, both which are easily recyclable, and more often more studiously recycled than plastics are, because glass and metal tend to have a different recycling process. So they kind of pressed upon us to find those items that are biodegradable, such as non-plastic straws, other forms of ways to kind of use that. So I think it's fantastic, and it definitely gives us a lot of homework and a lot of things to look at. But I think we'll land on stuff. A couple things to keep in mind. The more things you ask for to be on the side, the more packaging you're gonna end up with. You want sauces on the side, dressings on the side, extra cheese on the side, chili peppers on the side. All of those on the side items. Every single one of them has to come in its own package, because otherwise it will be ruined by the time you get it. And I have yet to see a biodegradable or really great biodegradable ramekin, like a little side dish that you can use. Most of them are plastic with plastic lids, because they have to hold up to the heat and they have to hold whatever is inside. So please keep that in mind, and make every effort. If you are going to be eating at home, if you're not eating on the road, don't ask for silverware. Don't ask for all those little things. Everybody has chili flakes at home. Everybody has ketchup at home. Everybody has Parmesan cheese at home. Don't ask for it on the side. Let it, let the stuff that you have in your house be used. Well, one of the things that we're looking at is really going further and reducing waste, and we are looking at a machine. It's called an Orca machine, which basically is a accelerated composting program wherein you get a basically it looks like a big washing machine. It's like a big bin. It's got a motor inside and basically has a heater, and it uses some safe bacteria inside the unit to tumble all the biodegradable food waste, right? So our obligation from the operations side would be just make sure that we place food waste only bins wherever there is food being scraped. So scraped from the plates, food prep areas, all of that stuff, all of that waste would get set aside, right? And then that would go into the machine, and the machine would just release basically gray water into our system. And it's fantastic, and it's a really cool idea. We're working on acquiring one of those later on this year, so that should be very cool for us to have. And to, I think I'm a big data person, and I think one of the coolest things about getting a machine like that is that it's fully connected. So it tracks everything that goes into the machine. It shows you how much waste you've saved. It weighs everything. It gives you a lot of really cool data that you can then take and study and then improve on down the line. One of our favorite dishes is the bread balloon, which is a really cool introduction to our cuisine and the style of dining that we like to do here at Fig, which is more of a communal dining experience where everybody kind of reaches in and rips open a piece of bread, a big beautiful puff of pita. But the flavors are not so much mainstream. Some people know about them, but things like za'atar, which is this dry herb mix with sesame and sumac in it. From Lebanon, Vadouvan spices, which kind of like a gentler, more sophisticated curry flavor, if you will. Smoked paprika and saffron, which are more commonplace, but their uses in an eggplant dish might not always be there. So it's really cool to introduce people to different interpretations of these ingredients, or to get somebody to have lebni for the first time, which is, a really fun yogurt spread that would make sense to have on a lot of things, but we have obviously other substitutes for it in the US. So it's really cool to really introduce people to that.